the truth of the matter is that AI will get some jobs redundant. That's the reality. I tell people, if you wake up in the morning and your job probably doesn't require you to think, it's going to be taken over. As simple as that. that you wake up in the morning and you sit somewhere and you probably all you do is, I don't know. I just think there are quite a number of jobs where literally maybe you're not thinking as much. But if you realize that what you're doing is routine and I need to do a tweak 1, 2 that someone else can do it smarter, your job will go. Because the intention of business is really to maximize profit. Business is not charity. I mean, I've just had I had this morning that Microsoft is going to have 9,000 jobs go, and they are going to invest in AI and more cloud capability to enable the AI, their AI engines and all kinds of stuff. So the next bit is to start thinking, what value do I add to AI? That because it is artificial. Your brain is a muscle, and it means that because your brain is a muscle, it's how much effort you put in exercising your brain that your muscle grows. So if you wake up and sleep, then in the next 1 hour, your muscle is not growing, you're not exercising your brain. AI will certainly come for you.
Let's talk to them. Let's talk chicka. Let's talk to them. Let's talk to them. Let's talk to them. Let's talk chicka. Let's talk to them. Yeah, I'm from a beautiful place, the Pearl of Africa. Hailing with a 256, it's in my blood. That's a gem where the mountains rise, with stories untold. The tapestry of cultures unfolding, so vibrant and bold. A symphony of stars, a celestial light. The drums beating, echoing through the night, just like a beacon of light. A reflection that's coming up from the Nile. I'm flowing straight into the heart of Africa with timeless stories untold. What's up, Doug?
Elevate your podcast game today. Are you looking for a perfect place to record your podcast in Kampala? Look no further. Dance-Off Studios, located at Ivory Plaza on Wilson Street, Level 3, Room 4, is a perfect place for you. Dance-Off Studios has professional recording equipment, comfortable and creative environment, expert for all your podcast needs. Book your session today. Find them on all social media platforms or reach out to them directly to secure your spot. Let them make your podcast dream a reality. Dance-Off Studios, where stories come to life.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon or good morning or anybody wherever you're receiving this podcast or what time you're watching this podcast. Today on the podcast, we're joined by Michael Niyitegeka. Michael is the executive director of Refactory. He's also the country manager of ICDL Africa. Michael is passionate and practices leadership development, business technology, strategy, and business advisory service, primarily through coaching and mentoring. He possesses 22 years of working experience in both private and public sectors. Michael has worked and consulted for different sectors with specific focus to business development, leadership development, strategy development, technology development, and integration. He has mentored and coached individuals and companies across different sectors over the last 10 years. Michael was a member of the ICT Technical Working Group of the Presidential Investor Roundtable and the Advisory Group for the Government of Uganda on the 4IR technologies. Michael serves as a board member in the fintech, insurance, media, and career industries. He is a Rotarian and is passionate about mentoring the next generation of technology business leaders. So welcome to the podcast, Michael.
It's a pleasure being here, and thank you for inviting me.
It's funny how life works, that this day you don't know this person and this day you know this person, and you get to have an opportunity to sit down and have a conversation with a stranger. And this is what I love about this podcast. You sit down with one, it's like they lock you, it's like the movies you see, they lock you with a stranger in one room and you're supposed to have a conversation. You've never met this person. You don't know this guy, but you're there to have a conversation, and I love it. I love it.
It's what makes us human, trust. That you trust you're going to meet someone who will not just be a stranger, but somebody who you both have an idea about each other, I guess. And yeah, here we are.
Especially the fact that I don't tell my guests what I'm going to ask them. So I just say, hey, come over, sit in the studio. And they have no idea what this guy is going to ask me. Like, what?
Well, I guess it makes the two of us. I rarely struggle prepping for.
Yeah.
When people send me questions, I honestly struggle with prepping.
Mm-hmm.
I am more of a bespoke. Yeah. So ask me a question, think about it, I'll respond. I find it more natural than when I have notes and even when I'm moderating panels. I prefer to have a conversation as opposed to getting
like
properly rehearsed, researched responses. I guess those are for exams, not for conversations. Yeah.
And that's why I wanted to make this podcast different. It's more of a conversation than an interview. And that's why I'm switching things up. I do not, unless my guest insists like this is how they prepare, then I don't want to make them uncomfortable. But if my guest is okay with just coming and we talk, then we do that, because I try to make as comfortable as possible for the guests if they ask for it. But other than that, how are you doing? How is life?
I'm doing well. Can't complain at all. It's a very exciting time for us, and specifically with the work that I'm doing at Refactory, where we are working with young people and preparing them for talent, for the marketplace. And I think I've seen growth, and looking forward to an even more exciting second part of 2025.
It's crazy that we're already halfway past the year. I feel like the year just started like the other day.
It's on
like,
steroids.
Yeah, it's on steroids.
I sometimes wonder, I thought when I was younger, time was hardly moving. Now, when I seem to have a few things running, I just need like another 10 hours to make my day. But yeah, it is what it is.
I think for me, if I wish I could add extra hours on my day, I'd definitely use it, because now you do a podcast, you have a 9 to 5, you have a little one, you have this, like things are moving so fast.
It is crazy.
When did you first hear or learn about this podcast?
I think it's about earlier this year, because I probably landed it was shared on X. Watched bits of it, and when you watch something and you're like, let me pick it up again, and yeah, life happens. And so when I was contacted by Sherry from the Ministry of ICT, I was like, okay, no problem, I'll go for it. And this change in time was perfect for me.
And I'm thankful to have a weekday, because I have a 9 to 5. I'm an aircraft mechanic. But like today in America, it's 4th of July. So it's Independence. So we have the day off.
Yes.
Like, it's perfect. Let me do a podcast. So we did a podcast.
Perfect.
Actually, I shoot on Saturdays. Yeah.
Yes, perfect. I was told about Saturday. Sometimes struggle to get into town on Saturdays. So when this came, I was like, oh, I am ready for it.
And for the listeners, this is your reminder. Subscribe for this on this podcast, or share with a friend, and that's how we grow. I appreciate we're almost at 4,000. It's been a steady growth. Again, I remind the listeners that it's not about numbers, but seeing the growth also helps us to improve and be better. So hit the subscribe button if you're just watching this podcast for the first time. You mentioned Ministry of ICT. What is your relationship with the Ministry of ICT?
It's given that I'm in the tech space, IT space. It's only natural that I work with them, or we collaborate on a number of things. So I have been part of several engagements. Been part of different technical working groups supporting the ministry, either developing strategies, or technical working groups that are working on different initiatives. So like I did mention earlier, it's been as long as the ministry has existed. I have had one or two things going on with the ministry, but very specifically now, I do have Refactory has, as well as ICDL, we do have an MOU with the ministry where we are supporting the ministry under its the digital transformation roadmap that the ministry has on different areas, but specifically on the skilling pillar. So yeah, it's one of those relationships that have to happen.
To give the listeners a roadmap, today we're going to be talking about the business process outsourcing, which is in relationship with the Ministry of ICT, and Michael is going to help us walk through that. And this is an opportunity for the young youth in Uganda, which is going to fix the biggest problem in our country of unemployment. And this is another opportunity that the resources are out here to help you. But before we go into all that, we'll finish up a few stuff about Michael, and then we'll get into that. Since you said you saw my podcast on X, I was also on X, and I really love the first 3 words in your bio: living my purpose.
Yeah.
What does that mean to you?
Interesting. Yeah, so I came to terms with, I think as you go through life, as you journey through life, there's certain things that become vivid, and you realize this is who you are, and you just have to make it come to life. So I taught in Makerere for 12 years until 2013. And I love teaching. I love working with young people, and I felt that's where my life comes. Like I feel I'm getting, I get energy from seeing people grow and transitioning. But I think the disconnect for me was when I realized that academia was not my piece of cake, or it's not something that I'm really extremely excited about. And so in 2013, I decided to quit and go into the marketplace and, like they say, hustle. But as I was trying to get my feet on the ground, when you keep on getting this call of there's something that needs to be solved. And one of the things that was really dear to me, which I had attempted to kind of work out while I was in Makerere, was helping or creating or innovating or designing programs that enable young people to find work. Because one of the things that I really, really, really worked me up was that we were training quite a number of young people who would come to the Faculty of Computing then, and then before it became the college, and they would take quite some time before they would find work. And so my question was, is there a way we can solve for this? Because there were two scenarios. One, on one hand, I had friends in industry who were working, who were employing, and they were constantly telling me we cannot find good talent. On the other hand, we were training and we thought we were doing a great job, but industry is keeping on telling me we can't find talent. And so then I attempt to solve that by, I think I remember walking to the then dean of the faculty, Professor Waliamureba, and telling him, we can't claim to be industry facing, and yet we don't have anybody who is responsible for ensuring that we are speaking to the industry constantly.
All right.
In his true character, he then mentioned to me that, why don't you then write your own job description? And I remember telling him I didn't come asking for a job. I came to share. Then I attempt to set up a corporate relations office. We set it up. We try to bring industry. But then academia is not it's not agile, if that makes sense. Academia is heavily structured. You don't just shift things. And then I realized that it was not very easy for us to just, model the things that we want to do. And I guess for me, it was a bit of frustration as well because I felt we could do something. And so I left the university in 2013, and it was evident that there ought to be something to solve this problem. Because if ICT was going to be at the center stage of our national development, then the human capital was going to be the driver. If you don't have the human capital, then it becomes very difficult for you as a country to sustain the different initiatives. And I can tell you it's been a big challenge. There's so many projects that have been funded by World Bank, by the EU, but those projects can only be sustained if you have the right talent to run through the projects and keep them running. So long story short, in 2015, I meet two gentlemen who were trying to set up an ICT program in East Africa. And they tell me they want to start an ICT program. I tell them, look, this country doesn't need another degree program. This country is looking for a program that will enable young people to find work and find it pretty soon.
Yeah.
And 2015, 2016, we start and I begin to see results coming through. I consult industry and industry is quite responsive. I can tell you, by 2017, we had found something that needed to be solved. 2018, we hit the ground running and Refactory was born in 2018. And for me, life has never been as exciting as it is. We've trained close to 800 young people. We've seen about 90% of those find work, largely in the software engineering space. We're now doing machine learning, AI, and we're not doing any degree. We're not doing any diploma. We're just skilling for work. So yes, that's why I'm living my purpose, enabling talent and getting them into meaningful life.
That is so crazy how 3 words can mean so much, you know? And this is why I love podcasts. Like, if it's like you ask somebody a question of 3 words and you have a whole paragraph of what that means. And it really means a lot to me. And I hope the listeners are going to pick out something from that. And it's really touching on what is affecting the youth today. And later on in the conversation, we're going to dig deeper into those aspects that he was talking about, some of the things and how they plan on fixing this issue, which it's still a little an issue of unemployment a little bit, but we're going to talk about these opportunities. And maybe when you're tuning in or somebody's listening, you're going to learn a thing or two on how this could be helpful to you and later on will change our future. What is something people would be surprised to learn about you outside of your work?
So people always get surprised to know that I have never studied IT.
Really?
Yeah.
I am surprised too.
So every time I tell people that I don't have a single qualification in IT, I just moved into this space out of passion. People are like, wait, you, and all this IT you talk about? I'm like, yeah. It just shows you that it is possible. And I think my son made it very clear to me. He said, when God calls you, he qualifies you. When God has purposed something for you, he will skill you. You will learn. You don't need to go to school to learn the things. Yeah. So that's one thing every time I mention, people are like, wait, you mean you're a fake? I'm like, no, I'm not fake. It is what it is. Yeah.
If you're doing what you're doing now, what career path do you think you would have taken?
I'll probably be in business advisory services.
Yeah.
And farming. I think I'm deeply falling in love with farming. I guess once you're born into a farming family, it's always the first love that you tend to run away from, but it keeps on calling you and like, don't run away from me.
What's your go-to way to unwind after a long day of meetings and mentorship?
Running. I love running. It's something that I've found to be extremely refreshing. And I think even some of my colleagues know me when I feel quite exhausted. They're like,
yeah.
Later on, they'll say, did you go for a run? I'm like, yeah, I did. I went for a 5K run and yeah, I feel
oh wow,
like I've
that's
just
like
cleared, what do I call it? my RAM or my read. Yeah, it's like yes.
See, what's funny is my mom, as I mentioned to you before we started recording, my mom is Kenyan and she's Kalenjin and they're known for running. So I was born natural. Like I could run in my high school, in my primary, and I knew I could. When I ran, I always was the best. But it's something I did not want because I wanted football. I wanted to play soccer. So I was always like avoiding to run. Long story, I moved to the US in 2016. My church had like a 5K thing they wanted to do. I did not run for like 2 years, and I showed up for this 5K and I ran that thing like 16 minutes. I was like, man, I should have like chose this as a career because I was really fast. But running, I'd started running a few days ago, but like sometimes the schedule, you go for a run, it's hot and all that. But deep down there, I love running because of my mom.
It's there. One day it will just come back to life.
What was your very first job and what did it teach you? And I'll add another question on that and a plan B. How is it different from jobs you can get now from BPO today? And for the listeners who don't know what BPO is, we're going to break it through here soon. So yeah, if you can break that down.
My very first job was a spanner boy. I worked in a tea factory on an internship where I was really the support guy. Bring me this tool. And within, this was 93, 94. Within a month, I had mastered a couple of things. I was able to run, service a vehicle on my own, service a tractor, be on a factory shift and maintain the shift. If there's a breakdown, try and fix it. It was an exciting thing. I always had a passion for machines. And yeah, so that was my very first job. Yeah, how is it different? And now, I think there's been a significant shift in automation and the kind of, what is available. But also the youth these days probably have a different perception about work, and their exposure to work is quite different. I guess with more, I tell people, guys are watching more movies and all kind of stuff. And so if you tell them, you're going to be a spanner boy and you're going to be carrying toolboxes, like what is that? What is that? What are you talking about? Is it an app? Is there an app that can fix it? Which is a dilemma in one way or the other.
It's clear that leadership and mentorship plays a huge role in shaping the future.
It does.
Let's talk about the biggest challenge facing that future, which is unemployment. And in Uganda today, so many talented young people are struggling to find meaningful work despite having skills and potential. And that brings us to this next segment that we're going to talk about, the business process outsourcing, or which we're going to use as BPO. So if you hear the word BPO, we're meaning business process outsourcing, which quickly became a powerful opportunity for addressing the youth's unemployment and connecting Ugandans talent to the global economy. So, Michael, let's unpack this. And the ministry has launched this BPO policy to help boost the youth unemployment in Uganda. Can you explain what BPO is? I know we're going to have like questions about that, but for somebody who doesn't understand what it means, like just a general understanding of BPO or a brief understanding of that.
BPO is business process outsourcing. So technically or non-technical is anything that you regard in your business as non-critical, that someone else can deliver it to you or deliver it for you, and it won't significantly impact your business processes, is what you outsource. So you literally allow someone else to do it on your behalf. And many times it's probably at a cheaper cost. And so for those in Uganda, I tell people that business process outsourcing is not just about computers or call centers. Business process outsourcing is even as minute as, for example, the cleaning services in many of our organizations, cleaning has been outsourced to companies that come in and do it because that's what they do very well. Or printing services, there are people who have mastered and have invested in infrastructure that you probably don't need to invest in printing. All you need is to call them, give them the dimensions and the stuff you're looking for, and they'll deliver it for you. And there are all types of, could be transport, there are all types of processes that have been given to someone else to manage on your behalf without compromising your ability to deliver your core business value. So yes, back to the question, anything that is non-core that you have and also has limited exposure from a risk perspective, and you can comfortably find someone to do it for you on a better rate, better scale, then you outsource it. What that also means is that you have entities that are specializing in that. So if it's cleaning, you have entities that are specializing in cleaning services, that they understand the kind of chemicals, the kind of routine, that's their specialty. When they come to you, they know what it means to clean, they know what to schedule and that kind of stuff. So that's really what it is all about.
And let's start big for the people who are like, oh, what's in it for me? Or the questions that our listeners like, I'm going to use a Luganda word because most people, when they're listening to something, they just want to get to the part. Like,
yeah,
let's start big. What's the vision for Uganda's BPO industry in the next 5 years?
So when you look at it from a Ugandan perspective and government perspective, we move from just the BPO from a very layman perspective to now what we call technology-enabled BPO. Now, the technology-enabled is where you're using technology as a medium to offer a service. And in this particular case, it could be anything from, let's say, legal support services to accounting or financial reporting to data analysis to data labeling to annotation. And it's a whole spectrum of what is possible. But the critical thing here is that you're using technology, and it could be either centrally located or everybody's working from wherever they are. And so the vision is to enable as many young people who could acquire these skills and are able to offer these services to entities that are looking for this kind of raw talent. And so there are companies in different parts of the world that are looking for people who either going to label their data. If you're looking at the whole AI, machine learning stuff, there's a lot of data labeling and preparing this data for the machines to read and be able to process it, which then also speaks to your environment, the infrastructure, and all the stuff that is required then to make this come to life.
No, that's a very great opportunity. And you're talking about data labeling and stuff. And that's living in the US too. Like that's something actually companies hire people for. And this is something you could do at home, just data input. Like you could do it and then submit the data. So it's actually a really good opportunity. And earlier when you're talking about it, you say you do not need a degree, you do not need this. Why should a youth care about BPO? What's in it for a fresh graduate or even a senior six practice? Because since you said they don't need a degree, somebody will finish senior six and is like, I want to do that. What's in it for them?
What is in it for them is an opportunity to learn how to work. You acquire the discipline of work because I had an opportunity to supervise to an extent the first BPO project we had while I was still at Makere, and we're working with an American company that was into, they were largely scanning engineering drawings for most of the parts of the US. But the team in Uganda was labeling the data. So it would be, this is an engineering building for a tower X, and the tower has maybe X number of floors, And so this is electrical plan, this is a plumbing plan, and so they were just picking that and labeling and uploading it into the platform. So it teaches you discipline. That's number one. What does it mean to work? Two, it gives you a bit of a global concept. For me, that's an opportunity around BPO, that you have an appreciation of how the Americans work, the Germans work, the Australians work, could even be the Kenyans work, because of the versatility that it offers. So if let's say I'm on a platform like Fiverr or Propel, there are all these platforms now that are available that offer talent the opportunity to practice. You grow based on your delivery. So if you have the ability to deliver work and deliver fast, then your ratings go high. And as your ratings go high, it also means your dollar value also goes high.
And you get paid in dollars.
And you get paid. It may be in dollars, it may be in euros, but you get paid. So you earn based on effort. And that's something that people need to learn, that if you're going to survive in this ecosystem that is extremely, I would say to an extent, hostile, you're going to put in the work. The more you put in, the more you get out of it. So that's what I would say. What is in it for them? The things I've just shared. So it's a great opportunity. You acquire the experience. So if you're, let's say, doing accounting support for a company in Europe, and let's say MTN Uganda is looking for an accountant, and they're saying, we need you to have a global experience. You've never left Uganda, but you have a global experience. Right. Yeah, exactly. So that's the opportunity. They're looking for a lawyer who has had an opportunity to practice out of Uganda. You've been supporting a law firm, let's say in the US. You confidently walk and say, I have global experience, because you've been working with different facets of your profession.
Running back, when you're listing the softwares or the programs where you mentioned Propel. My work, I'm an aircraft mechanic in the US, and we use Propel for that, for all our trainings and stuff. So when you said that, it stood out to me. It's like, oh yeah, I can relate with Propel, because that's one of the software that we use for my workplace.
Okay, interesting.
Can you share a successful story of a Ugandan youth who started in BPO and now has grown professionally? Because maybe some of the listeners will be like, who has done that? They want to hear a story of somebody.
Quite a number. So at Refactory, we train software developers and train them really to be able to work anywhere in the world and for anyone else in the world. And over the last couple of years, I have seen quite a number that find work here, but also feel they have a little bit more time to go and do something on some of these platforms. It could be gig work, it could be largely in the gig ecosystem. And the one gentleman I know who joined us, originally from Ethiopia, joined our program. And as soon as he was done, got some work here, but then got another company in the US that was willing to hire him. They're paying him per hour. I won't disclose, I don't close it, but it's good value that he can comfortably work from home. That's one example. The other one who joined us she used to work with a radio in Kampala and decided, I want to try something in software engineering, and therefore joined us in 2019. And as soon as she started in 2019 March, in November, she was hired by a company in the UK to join their software development team. She's still working in that company, and she has evolved and grown over time because she had the competence, and the company had the confidence to say, I don't really care where you reside. If you can get the work done, I will pay you for getting the work done. So, like I said, there's so many examples I can share of young people that have come through us and have found work. Now, there's something you mentioned earlier, that the Ugandan youth have the talent, correct? But skill is something that doesn't come to you because you're born with it. Skill is something that you acquire because you invest time in it and you perfect it as we go along. Now, the challenge we have is that our education system does not necessarily invest in skill. Our education system is more of pass, get a qualification. But qualification without a skill is to a large extent a waste, especially in this ecosystem, if you're going to thrive. So that's why the programs that we run at Refactory, for example, are predominantly skill-based. What do I need to give you to get to start working? I'll share with you a video of a young lady who has recently completed. She's blind, partially blind, but she joined our program and she's now confident to say that she can be able to build websites using Typeform as a content management system. So just imagine somebody who is close to 90% blind, but now is able to use different packages and can now build a website. That person can work for any company, anywhere, because she has the skill. So we have to work on the skill side. We are going to leverage and get the kind of value that we need out of the BPO ecosystem.
So you've said you've trained over 800 people, and even some people may be listening right now and tuning in to hear all these stories that you've shared.
Yeah.
And they would love, or they'll be interested in BPO, but they don't know where to start. How do you help them?
So the starting point is, and I think for me, the opportunity is in two things. One is it's global. There's quite a lot of online platforms, and we try as much as possible to expose those that we work with to these platforms. But the second opportunity is that we're beginning to see quite a number of companies coming to set up in Uganda. So companies like BAG, BAG, which is out of Rwanda. They are.
I've actually hosted them on the podcast.
Great.
But
yeah. So entities like BAG, entities like Tech Talent, which is set up by a friend of mine out of the UK, who is really interested in tech and tech opportunities. Platforms that I would encourage as many of our young people to expose themselves to, because then they know what kind of skills these entities are looking for, and they're able to find the work through those platforms. But there are quite a number of platforms that are available globally. And I think for me, at a national level, we need to, as we bring in as many companies to try and set up here, we need to equally educate as many young people as possible to try and go through these platforms. Because you see, when you're going through that platform, it will assess your competences. So it will ask you a couple of things, and then we'll be able to tell you whether you are, you have some work to do or you're ready to work. And that for me is a starting point. It's always a starting point. And it is important that we pay attention to these opportunities. I think the second thing is that is also to let people know that unlike when you know Michael personally, you can afford to, I want to say, the Ugandan way of work, or it is raining and tomorrow, or power has gone off. Those things don't work once you start moving into the BPO ecosystem. Work is work. Find where power is if you don't have power. You cannot say, now it's called light, that we've not had light for 3 days, so I have not been able to deliver. That's not acceptable. So the time for storytelling ends once you start moving into the global dynamic or the global workspace. So we need to prepare. We need to invest in preparing this talent for these opportunities. Because even when some of these companies come and find that, our talent is not just running as fast as they want it to run, then it's going to be trouble.
You mentioned actually something that I want to dig deeper on, because I don't want to use the word laziness because people might take it offense, but even in jobs, your boss wants to see how creative you can get. Your boss would be happy of like, hey, power was off, but I was able to get a generator, and then I did this. I took too long, but I got there. Like
Yeah.
you gave me an assignment to do. I had some things come up, or like some power went off, but I was able to do this, to use solar to get this. That puts you in a different skill level than. But if you say, "Oh, power was off, I wasn't able to deliver," that's like puts you way down. So that's a good skill to have. And unfortunately, a lot of people, even my friends back in Uganda, their mentality is still there. But
Yeah.
once you switch the mentality to be like, how can I make this work? What can I push it more? Like that's something you need. And I'm glad like your company is trying to push for that, to give people that skill. And that's definitely, it will help a lot. Even when you get a job anywhere and they see that your thinking is on that level, it takes you really, really far.
It does. Yeah. It does. But also we need to model that as those of us that have the privilege of leading, we need to model that. I know of organizations where, the leader is saying one thing and is doing something totally different. So there is a responsibility on us as people that have broken into this market space, are doing a couple of things, to begin to model that discipline, that it doesn't matter. I tell our children that when I have work, I have to deliver, because that's a commitment I made when I accepted that work. And what that means is that there will be days when I'm going to sleep less, but I must never, ever have as many stories. Yes, there will be genuine challenges that you can ahead of time let the people know that this assignment I'm not able to deliver because of 1, 2, 3 things. And they are human beings, they're not machines. Right. They will give you a chance. Right. So be as honest as possible. Have the level of humility of, I have failed, but I'm trying to my level best to deliver. These are things that we keep on talking about as we prepare this talent, that it's okay to say I have failed. Nobody expects you to be a superhuman being. And once you start going into the BPO space, we recently lost an opportunity at Refactory. A Japanese company that we worked with last year gave us work last year. We delivered. They were extremely happy. This time around, they come back to us with a very short timeline, like extremely short. By the time they communicated to us, they wanted work to start, but we hadn't agreed on terms. We hadn't agreed on a number of things and budget and all that. And I could tell the frustration on his side, but I was also telling him, Chief, I am not going to commit for the sake of committing because I'm looking for work.
Right.
There are certain things that need to be correct and we are in agreement, then I can commit to the work. And he said, because of that, I won't give you the work. I said, unfortunately, we've lost the opportunity, but it's important that you have the humility to say, can I understand 1, 2, 3 things? Just because it is work and you don't have the capacity, don't just accept it. Yeah. And that's one of the challenges that we have here, that people will take on much more than they can handle. That even when they could pass it on to another person, they choose not to pass it on, but they just want to make sure that they handle it.
They get
I do, besides Refactory, I do consulting work. And I will look at my load and I will say, I'm going to bring in 2 other resources to support me on this because I have a full-time job, but I can also provide leadership here. Now, and I will tell the client, I will say, do you want me as Michael to be on the project, or do you want me to provide leadership and I take responsibility? He says, all I want is my work done. I'm like, done. You'll get your work done. And I will find people to work with. So I'm sharing the cake, I'm sharing the pie, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But at the end of it all, what happens? I get more work coming through because I'm honest.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's the same strategy. Like it might be like a different industry, but like with my podcast, like if somebody reaches out to me, hey, I want to be on this podcast next weekend, I have a planned schedule, like scheduled things. So I tell you, I can't put you on next weekend, but I have openings in September because that's how far my schedule is. And some people get pissed off. They
I
get
know.
mad at me for telling them that. But like you reached out at the wrong time. Also, the other thing that you just mentioned, yes, I would love to have people come on podcasts, but I also recommend, hey, there's another podcast here. You can check this out.
Yeah.
They can host you on
Yeah,
that
yeah.
because, like you said, pass on the cake. And they're like, oh, and people get mad at you, but like you came at the wrong time. I didn't have enough time to prepare for that. I don't just wake up and say, okay, Michael is coming on my podcast. We're going to just sit here and I prepare for this thing.
Yeah,
Sit
yeah,
down,
yeah,
research about the guests. There's a lot that goes on to have a good conversation. So you can't just wake up tomorrow and just say, hey, I'm going to be on, put me on. No, it's like process
I have
of,
something to
like,
tell
how
you.
things-
I have something to tell you. Please put me on.
yeah. Yeah.
It doesn't work like that.
And you see a lot of those in like the DMs and like, hey, I want to be on this podcast. Like there's criteria on like process on how things are gonna work.
And to be honest with you, I have had similar experiences where somebody calls you and he says, "Are you available tomorrow?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" Like, I want you to. We have a conference or we have a meeting, we have a workshop, and we are looking for somebody to speak. I'm like, guys, you have a workshop, you have a conference, and you're just looking for somebody to speak now, tomorrow. Okay. If for one reason or the other I can make the time, I'll certainly consider it. But also sometimes I will do it because you also don't want to be seen as the person who anytime they're looking for somebody to do something, you're the guy who is available. So yeah, those principles. And I tell people, the unfortunate bit is that whereas our life and everything around us seems to be changing, technology, AI and everything, I tell people the principles of life, fortunately or unfortunately, haven't changed. The principles of life are still the same. Humility, being truthful, these things that make us human beings are still intact. It doesn't matter what generation of technology you're using.
Anyway, we sidetracked a little bit, talk about things, but I was happy because that's one of the skill that's really needful for the youth. Like that's something that they skip their minds, but it takes you far. And I'm glad that BPO is actually highlighting that because that will change a lot. It'll bring a lot of opportunities. Sometimes it's not that we don't have opportunities. Sometimes it's just we just need to brush off some things of us because, like we said, we have the talent, but we need to add on some skill to that. And like Ugandans are hard workers, but we need to add on something to that to make it actually happen. So we've talked about this, but like how is the ministry ensuring that a kid or a youth from Kanungu, Kabarore, Kabera Maido, the underprivileged youth also benefit from BPO opportunities?
So there are several things that I am aware of that government is involved in. The one initiative that I know is being run right now is what they're calling they're setting up hubs in different parts of the country. So right now you have about 3 hubs out of Kampala, one in Arua, one in Soroti, Arua at Muni University, Soroti at Soroti University, and then Kabale University. I know they're going to activate a number of other hubs in the regions. And those hubs really are supposed to be kind of accelerator spaces where people get to learn, but also meet opportunity. So that's one key initiative that the ministry is championing. The ministry also does have what you call the ICT job fair. Now, the ICT job fair gives you an opportunity as a young person to connect and meet potential employers, and both in the BPO and out of the BPO ecosystem. and I'm aware of that. There are plans to have this move around the country, so have mini job fairs so that people get to understand the opportunities in the digital space or in the BPO space. We were in Soroti in February this year, and it was amazing. We had over 600 young people come to attend our career fair, which was largely tech career fair. And the hunger for people to know, what do I need to learn to acquire this, is immense. Now, you need to follow that hunger with food. And so we need to have programs that are closer to them. Now, Refactory, all our programs are virtual. So it implies that the person needs to have access to a computer, the person needs to have access to a good connection, and power becomes then very, very fundamental. So at a national level, there needs to be a progressive approach to access to infrastructure that enables as many young people to easily access computers, easily access internet that is affordable, but also power. So the hub concept is very good, but that means people need to move into physical locations.
Yeah.
Your typical BPO and how it is evolving, people can work from anywhere. Freelancing or gig work, the gig economy is quite an opportunity. But also you have development partners that are invested in supporting some of these initiatives. So Refactory is part of a consortium where we're working on enabling the digital economy. We call it the 10X program. So we're enabling the digital economy through supporting MSMEs, but also skilling. And the big dream of that program is to skill about 9,000 young people into acquire digital skills that can then be transferred into the digital economy. And this is with support from MasterCard Foundation. Now, these opportunities are available. And sometimes the struggle is in minimizing the communication gap, because there are opportunities, but sometimes the people that need to know it, it's a whole 9 yard to get to them, for them to be able to know. So you can't be in Kabale all the time. You can't be in Kisoro.
Yeah.
You can't. So we need to find a way of reducing on the communication barrier, if that makes sense.
And the good thing, like you said, internet is everywhere now. Like somebody in this place can access that now. It's a one step. So now they need power and they need all that to be able to jump on.
I think the next thing is really the internet being present is one thing. The quality of internet is also something that we really need to pay attention to.
That is true.
That's critical. And I know their government is moving towards ensuring that we all have a fair, stable connection across the country. But yeah, that's a huge barrier to especially the BPO industry.
Throughout the conversation, you were talking about AI and automation in BPO. How would that affect the job opportunity? Because people have this fear that when AI comes in, we'll lose jobs. How is that affecting the opportunity?
The truth of the matter is that AI will get some jobs redundant. That's a reality. I tell people, if you wake up in the morning and your job probably doesn't require you to think, it's going to be taken over. As simple as that. that you wake up in the morning and you sit somewhere and you probably all you do is, I don't know. I just think there are quite a number of jobs where literally maybe you're not thinking as much. But if you realize that what you're doing is routine and I need to do a tweak 1, 2 that someone else can do it smarter, your job will go. Because the intention of business is really to maximize profit. Business is not charity. I mean, I had this morning that Microsoft is going to have 9,000 jobs go, and they are going to invest in AI and more cloud capability to enable the AI, the AI engines and all kind of stuff. So the next bit is to start thinking, what value do I add to AI? That because it is artificial, your brain is a muscle, and it means that because your brain is a muscle, it's how much effort you put in exercising your brain that your muscle grows. So if you wake up and sleep, then in the next 1 hour, your muscle is not growing. You're not exercising your brain. AI will certainly come for you, or has come for you. It's no longer a future. It is present. But here's the opportunity. The opportunity is in that whereas these realities are real to the extent possible, let's say in the US, Europe, Africa still has a long way in terms of getting to that level of automation where AI is like, is fully integrated. Like we have full-blown automation. If you look at our transport infrastructure here, if you look at, just imagine some of those smart cars in Kampala. I'm pretty sure it will just get confused and it will crash. So there's still work for us in our confusion or in the kind of work that we're doing. But that said, it won't be long, because the journey for automating businesses, where it used to take 10 years, it can now be done in under 1 year. So you're going to see more businesses adopt automation. Just look at this conversation happening right now.
Right.
You're somewhere in the US, I'm in Kampala, and we're having this conversation close to seamlessly. How many people are supporting this function? How many? But look, 5 years ago, what would it take? It would take you flying over here and spending whatever you needed to spend to ensure that you have your crew, the cameras, and everything.
Good example.
Not anymore. But how do I enable? How do I be a facilitator? And I think for me, that's where the huge opportunity is. And those of us that have the opportunity to understand the larger ecosystem, I think we have a responsibility to educate and prepare as much as possible the talent that we're working with, where the direction is heading. Recently, somebody called me and said, Michael, how are you preparing your software developers for the era where we no longer need to write code? I said, for you to use no code to build an application, you need to understand the fundamentals around writing software code. So if you teach yourself and you think you can just pull and plug and play, there will be major gaps in your application. But the guy who has the foundational knowledge of understanding how to write code will run faster with no code than you who is just trying to play around. Yeah. So AI, and generally speaking, automation is going to disrupt or is disrupting the world of work without a doubt. It's going to happen faster in the developed world than it will happen here, but it will come for us as well, because companies are going to start investing. I mean, I've seen companies that are investing in AI agents to do customer service. That AI agent is working 24/7. It doesn't have any moods. It doesn't have any. It is as diligent as it can be. It's not that it has.
Exactly.
No. So you're going to see more of that stuff head there. The gaps that we need to fill is because we still have a digital divide. If you look at the number of people that have, let's say, smartphones vis-a-vis the number of people that have phones in our markets, there's still a divide. But let's not run away from the fact that you have such a youthful population. 70% are below the age of 20. Those guys are not going to hold feature phones. Those guys are going to hold smartphones. Like, they will be working literally for data. They may go hungry, but they must have data.
Yeah, on the phone.
On the phone. So those guys don't want to go to the bank. They won't go to the bank to get money. They want everything on their device. My son can't understand when I say I'm going to the bank. He's like, but you have an app. I'm like, yeah, there's certain transactions that I need to go to the bank. He says, okay, I understand. But for him, if it's not on that device, Dad, no, that's not for me, probably. Yeah.
That's a Gen Z for you. Where?
Yeah, true.
Oh, Michael.
Yeah.
I could talk to you all day about BPO, which is really amazing. And I'm glad that I've had this opportunity to have this conversation on this podcast, because my listeners actually, when you see the insights, the highest listeners are between the age of 25 and close to 30 or something like that. It's a youthful age for it. I'm happy sometimes I bring funny stories of people to talk about stuff, but this is also something that's really important. I'm happy to have these conversations to add on to something, to join your journey of living your purpose through using this medium to share these words to the people. Is there anything about BPO that I did not ask you about that I left out that you would want to share with the listeners?
I think for me, it's that the opportunity is there, and with or without government, you can start. And for me, it is start. I know of a friend of mine who started a BPO, and guess what? He was teaching Koreans how to speak English, and they were using Facebook, and he would enroll guys, and so through Facebook Talk. I think then later, I think that time Zoom hadn't come through. I need to check on him whether he's still doing it. But he had about 30 or so young people who were just teaching these people how to say, how are you? How do you, like, literally coaching English. And they were in Kampala. But I'm not sure how far he went with it. But the opportunities are there. The key thing is start. The more you do it, the better you become. The better you become, the better the value for you.
Thank you very much, Michael. Our final, second last segment is called This or That. I'm going to ask you pick one thing. Oh, I'm going to ask you two things, but you pick one. You have to pick one.
Okay.
Call center or coding? What's your vibe?
Coding.
Work from home or office?
That's a tough one. That's a setup.
Yeah.
Preferably both, but yeah. There's no middle one here.
No, you can't pick both.
Pass.
It's just
I'll pass.
No, you can't. Pass is not even available.
Office.
Okay. Books or podcast?
Podcast.
Yeah, I think I'm podcast too. I tend to listen a lot. Coffee or tea to power you through a long day?
Coffee, but I was born into tea.
Yeah, I saved the best for the last because I know you're a coffee lover.
You did. So I love coffee.
And for this one, I'm gonna talk a little bit. That's the reason why I put it last, because I learned that you are a coffee lover through stalking you. Brandy said I stalk people, but it's not. I don't call it stalking. I call it research. Like,
yes, you do.
She said I stalk people, but like, how am I gonna have a conversation with a stranger without finding out things they like, what they do? But recently, I had a conversation with Victoria Sibea. She's from South Africa. She's the news anchor at NBS. She was on the podcast, and I asked her a similar question about coffee and tea, and she said I don't want to misquote her, but she said she's against people putting sugar in their coffee. What do you take? What's your take on that?
It tastes horrible with sugar.
Yeah, it does. Somebody on TikTok said they put honey. I was like, how?
How? It's nutritious. I just can't imagine the taste. So here's what happened for me. I used to put some sugar until a runner friend of mine who is a barista and really into coffee and said, Michael, you're killing coffee. Never put sugar. She said, please try and take it without sugar and test the sweetness. I have never put sugar in coffee. And when I go somewhere and they put sugar in coffee, I feel like you have committed a crime.
Okay.
Yeah.
You've committed murder.
Murder.
No, I told her so in America they do like a lot of those cream. Do you ever put creamer in it or you just want it black with nothing?
I do a lot of black, but yeah, once in a while cappuccinos.
Yeah, I put cream. I'm not a coffee guy. Like you said, I was born into tea. When I come back to Uganda, I export all the, no, is it import? No. I bring all the tea spices that I can get, the tea masalas, everything.
Yes.
And I just bring, because I drink tea every morning of my day. Like that's a routine. That's something that I do all day.
Yeah, I grew up taking a lot of tea. Yeah, it was my dad. My dad worked in a tea estate, so we were literally on the tea estate. So tea was like the only beverage that you could think of. But as I grew up, yeah, I take tea. I still love my good African tea, spiced to the tea.
To the tea.
and I struggle with tea bags. I hate tea bags. I think it's the worst thing that has happened to tea.
Really? I use tea bags most. I mean, it's easier for me. I just dip it in there and then take it out. Because I'm at work already, it's easier for me to just...
I hear you, but I guess it's... When I'm taking black tea, I have no problem with the tea bag. When I'm taking the African tea, milk with milk, I want it to brew with the milk. So
gotcha.
I want it strong. But yeah, but we can go on and on. We can have another conversation about coffee and tea.
I know. Yeah, that's why I brought it last, because I was like, if we go into this, we're gonna take a different side track into something.
A different direction. Yes.
Anyway, I have final three. Final three. These are questions I ask everybody who comes on the podcast. What's a life lesson you've learned in life to this point?
Life is lived in a moment. And maximize the opportunity in the moment.
Maximize the opportunity in the moment. Yeah, I like that. What gets you excited about life?
That it's never the end. That one valley, there is always an uphill to the top. So running has taught me that for every valley you're going in, you're going to go up. So same as life, that always be positive.
Who would you like to see on this podcast next as a guest? And you connect me to that person.
How much time do you have? I have a list of human beings I can. There are quite a number. In the space that I'm in, there's a gentleman called Dr. Haruna Mawanda. He's into the tech space, been building quite a lot of stuff in the corporate world. Very, very strong in the work that he's doing. There's a lady called Susan Insibirwa. She's the MD of Nation Media. We do some work with her. Very strong character. A human being, and this Irish who has become Ugandan, Ian Clark, with all the work that he's...
I think I've heard the name.
Yeah, his IHK, if you know IHK Hospital in Kampala, he's moved from he moved out of the medical world, went into education, now into farming and hospitality. He's one guy I look up to, and I'm like, that's quite bold that you just flip like that from. He left agriculture, he left medical, sold his hospital, and went and bought land and started planting coffee. And I'm like, who does that?
Who does that?
and he runs a university. He's a passionate guy about stuff that he's doing.
That would be amazing. Since we're now connected, you have my number. We'll keep in touch and we can always communicate in there. And for the listeners, I really appreciate for those of you who have made it through this conversation till the end. I know it's a different conversation that we usually have on the podcast, but this is something that's important. And if you know anybody who could use this information, feel free to share this episode with them. Send it to your family in your family group. If you're a parent and you think this information could help your son, your nephews, your nieces. Just share with everybody. Is there anything else you want to leave the listeners with?
We live in very interesting times, and I would say you are going to have to step out of your comfort space if you're going to thrive in this ecosystem. What works well now is certainly being replaced right now. So you just have to keep learning.
Exactly. So share this episode. If you've not subscribed to this podcast. We really appreciate. We love feedback. Leave a feedback on this podcast and let us know who you want to see on this podcast next. Thank you, Michael. It was amazing.
Pleasure. Always a pleasure. Thank you for having me. Thank you very much. Much appreciated.
Hey there, my name is Bonnie Chibuka, the podcast host of the Ugandan Boy Talk Show. Thanks for watching and listening to my podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe. Also, leave a feedback on this podcast because that's how we grow. Thank you very much and be blessed.
Hi, this is Michael Niyitegeka. I have been hosted on this amazing podcast. Very great conversations. We've talked anything and everything about BPO, skilling and preparing talent for the world of work that is artificial intelligence enabled. And so looking forward to you connecting, learning, but also sharing with as many of your own connections. See ya then. Thank you.
Elevate your podcast game today. Are you looking for a perfect place to record your podcast in Kampala? Look no further. Dance-Off Studios, located at Ivory Plaza on Wilson Street, Level 3, Room 4, is a perfect place for you. Dance-Off Studios has professional recording equipment, comfortable and creative environment, expert for all your podcast needs. Book your session today. Find them on all social media platforms or reach out to them directly to secure your spot. Let them make your podcast dream a reality. Dance-Off Studios, where stories come to life.